Broadcasting live worldwide. Welcome.
Are you ready? Welcome. Señoras y señores, welcome
a Diálogo con Luis Otero.
So welcome to a new episode of Dialogo with Luis Otero. This is your host, Luis Otero, and thank you so much to all the thousands and thousands of people that they listen to us worldwide in more than 27 platforms. I want you guys know that I appreciate so much tremendously. All of you, please listen to us in Apple Podcasts, Tony Radio app, Stitcher.com, Spotify, everywhere. We are in more than 27 platforms worldwide, and I want to say thank you so much to all of you. Please follow us in Instagram at @DLuisOtero, THE Luis Otero. Go to dialogoconotero.com and definitely just listen to all the episodes that we have of Dialogo, and today is no exception. The guest that I have today is a guy that I grew up watching on TV every single Saturday, every single Sunday, and he's just an athlete, on his own right, a tremendous athlete, I gotta say. But he did transition and he went to the wrestling world, the professional wrestling world, and he have been a 9-time WWC junior heavyweight champion. I think that I have the stats correct. He's a 1-time IWA Puerto Rico junior heavyweight champion, as well as Puerto Rico heavyweight champion for WWC, and an unrecognized universal champion for WWC, as well, like cruiserweight champion for WXW in Florida, and WXW television champion as well. In Florida, he is a tremendous professional and athlete with more than plus 20 years, in the ring. Have traveled to many places, have faced tremendous people. I have today with me in Dialogo with Luis Otero, the amazing Señor Estados Unidos, the original natural-born fighter, the amazing Brent Dail. Welcome to Dialogo with Luis Otero. Brent, it's such a pleasure to have you, man, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Well, not a problem. Thank you very much for having me. I really do appreciate it, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
No, it's awesome to see you, man. So many great years, so many great memories. As a heel, as a baby face, but mainly as a heel in Puerto Rico, Brent, it's just wild because I don't know if I have the stats correctly, but you went to Tennessee, correct? As a wrestling, athlete, and you went to college there. You definitely see that you were able to transition. But I met you for the first time through my TV, through basically watching WWC, cutting your first promo, and I said, "Who's this guy? Like, who's this guy on TV that is coming just for the junior heavyweight division?" Speaking English, we didn't have that time, in WWC in Puerto Rico, that much English speakers. And you came and you went in immediately. You went immediately on an angle, I think, with Eddie Colon. And I was like, man, this is going to be wild just to see this guy rise through the ranks, and it was incredible because I think this was back in 2002. You faced your first match was with Mr. Casanova. And then after that, you were doing stuff with Tommy Diablo and all these other great guys. But it was wild because you already were with Tommy Diablo, wrestling. And I was like, this guy's going to go for the junior heavyweight championship. And you bring a lot of a lot of good visibility to the title back then. But tell me a little bit about your childhood, because you're a Florida guy, but I think you went to Tennessee and did wrestling. And, tell us a little bit about yourself, because we know Brent Dail, but we don't know Brent Cameron Dail, who went to college.
Right. Well, really what happened was I started wrestling when I was 15.
Yeah.
I had an injury and I couldn't wrestle in middle school. So I started wrestling when I was in high school. I started in 10th grade, which is pretty kind of unheard of. I had like 3 seasons to prove myself before I graduated high school. And I did really well. I ended up finishing second in the state of Florida in wrestling, which is a feat that you don't see now. And the guy that beat me in the finals of the state tournament actually ended up going on to win the NCAA Division I national championship, a guy named Dwight Gardner.
I have heard that name before. Yeah, I have heard that name. Yeah. I have heard that Dwight Gardner, the name before. I have heard it somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, he won for Ohio University. He's one of the only NCAA champions to come out of Florida. Well, anyways, he beat me barely in the state finals. I even had him pinned with like 10 seconds left to go, and I ended up losing. And anyways, long story short, I didn't have really any college offers looking at me. I had one school that was interested in me, but I didn't have the grades to go to a 4-year college. So what happened was this one coach sent me a letter and was interested in me. So I called him and I said, okay, well, I can't go to a 4-year, but what about a junior college? He was like, okay. So I ended up talking to a bunch of took about a year, and I did absolutely nothing except worked a bunch of jobs. Long story short was I sold myself. I became a salesman like really early in my career. My high school coach didn't even help me.
Wow.
I ended up like getting myself recruited to a junior college in Kansas. Wrestled there for 2 years. I got there. They gave me a good scholarship. I went there. I was an All-American when I went there. By my last year was a very triumphant year. I even had mono that year. I was like really sick.
Wow. Mononucleosis. That's crazy.
Yeah. And I came back and I ended up being an All-American that year. It was probably one of the craziest years in wrestling I ever had. Anyways, I did. And then I ended up going to Carson Newman University in Tennessee. After that, I did really well there. I had a knee injury my senior year, and I thought, well, if the school's going to pay for it, I might as well have them do it. So they worked on my knee, but I ended up I had missed like practically the whole season my senior year, and then I came back and I ended up qualifying for the NCAA Division II championships. But I didn't place, but I ended up going, and then that's about it there. And then after that, I was like a coach for a little while at a high school, Lake Gibson High School. I was an assistant coach, and how I really got into pro wrestling was this is actually kind of a funny story. It's a weird story, actually. What happened was I was dating this one girl at the time that back in the day, she was my wrestling manager years ago. Her name was Summer Rain. Anyways, we were dating for a little while, and I had a kid that won a state championship that year, and he basically said, hey, coach, I want to go to one of these off-season tournaments or a freestyle Greco-Roman, tournament. I was like, okay, that's fine. So I'd been out partying and having a good old time the night before. And I go, listen, I woke up that day and I said, listen, we were at our apartment. I said, listen, I'm going to go see if this kid's going to be at the school. So I show up. Kid don't show up for the longest time. I call her on the phone. I said, listen, I'm coming home. I'm out of here. Right as I'm about to walk out the door, he walks in. Hey, coach, ready to go? And then it was David Huff. I was like, all right, cool, let's go. So we go. Now, this is the chance how I got into pro wrestling. I show up at this tournament. I look like total shit. I'm totally hungover. And I'm sitting there. I'm just like, all right, Dave, do what you got to do. Get out there. He's like, and I'm coaching and stuff like that. Well, Gerald Briscoe's at this tournament.
Wow. What a legend.
Happens to be there. He's there with his son, Wes, and a couple other kids from their wrestling program, from their wrestling team and their club. Anyways, long story short, he walks by me and he notices David Huff because he won state that year. And Briscoe's very good on he really keeps up with college kids, Florida wrestling, because he lives in Florida, so he keeps up with all that stuff.
He's a great scout.
He is. Listen, as far as he's the unsung hero of Florida wrestling, of Florida amateur wrestling, because there was a lot of kids that started out that we weren't very known, and now we're like one of the better states in the United States. But at the time, I would say that Joe Briscoe is one of the unsung heroes when it comes to amateur wrestling in Florida. He got a lot of guys noticed and sent to schools like Glenn Goodman, who was the first 4-time state champ from Florida, and Chris Bono, who won the NCAA championship. He actually got him into Iowa State. And then Bono ended up winning because him and Bobby Douglas were good friends and they were teammates from Oklahoma State. So he ended up getting him in, and then Chris ends up winning an NCAA championship down the road. Well,
damn.
Long story short, we're at this tournament. He notices David Huff. He goes, "You're his coach?" I said, "Yeah." And at the time I was a lot smaller. He goes, "Man, you look like one of them. You look like you're his age. How old are you?" I said, "I'm 24, something like that." He goes, "But I'd never guessed it. I thought you were still in high school." And then he started asking me about myself. And I was like, I wrestled in college. I did all this. I did All-American, all that good stuff. And he kind of goes, "Well, all right, it's good to meet you." And then he walks away. Later on in the day, he comes and grabs me, says, "Hey, coach, come here and help me out. Okay, I want you to help out my son." I said, "Okay." So I go over and help his son out and one of his other kids. And they ended up doing pretty good in these matches. And then he's looking at me and he's like, all right. He goes, and I told him I just took that as an opportunity. I said, hey, listen, I'm interested in getting into pro wrestling. He goes, well, you're a little small, but you look like you got some good knowledge, you know what I mean? And whatever. He goes, well, I can talk with Dory Funk and set up some stuff for you. I mean, if you're really interested. I said, yeah. He said, well, we're having a wrestling clinic in about a week. Why don't you show up there? He said, Kurt Angle's going to run it. I said, okay, why don't you show up? Okay, sounds good. So next thing I know, he gives me a call. He calls me out of the blue. You still coming to that to the clinic? I said, yeah. And then he called me, and I picked. Back then we didn't have a lot of cell phones, so you left it on my home phone. And I called him, and I was like, yeah, I'll be there. He goes, yeah, I even talked to Dory Funk. If you're still interested. I said, yeah. He said, don't worry, Dory will be calling you soon. So I go to the thing. I meet Kurt. I talked to Kurt for a little while. And I noticed they were trying to be kind of weird, but they were watching me as I was walking around helping with technique with some of the kids and stuff. But I noticed them out of the corner of my eye, Kurt and freaking Jerry were kind of like watching me and like this. And they come up and they talked to me a little bit, asked me, like, pick my brain. And I was like, so I gave him told him a lot of stuff. And then next thing I know, I ended up, he tells Kurt, yeah, he's going to Dory. He said, oh, okay. And then Kurt took more of an interest, and me and him talked a little bit. And he said, yeah, Dory will teach you a lot. And he was asking me a little bit about my background. I was like, okay. So a couple of weeks later, month or so later, I end up at Dory's camp. And I pretty much, it's so funny about that camp. WCW showed up, guys from WCW. JJ Dillon was at that camp. The Alpha, the Wild Samoans, a bunch of his people were there. It was just because for some reason, I guess WWE was looking at this camp, and so was WCW. So they had John Laurinaitis there. He showed up, Johnny Ace, Ricky Santana. That's how I met Ricky. That's the first time I met Ricky. Ricky showed up at this camp for Dory, and he started talking to me, and he goes, hey, he says, he pointed me out of the crowd, and he started talking to me. He goes, well, how'd you get over here? I said, Gerald Briscoe sent me. Next thing you know, you see, you could tell that light goes on with him. And he's like, all right, well, let me show you some stuff. Because I was green as a blade of grass. I didn't know shit. All I knew was, sorry, I don't mean to curse or whatever.
Hey, you can curse. Hey, this is uncensored here. You can talk and you can curse.
Okay, well, he says, I was like, well, shit. He showed me some stuff. He goes, man, this guy knows some amateur wrestling, but he don't know dick about pro. I was like, all right. So I was like, I ended up getting chewed out. It was funny. I ended up getting chewed out by Dory and Marty Funk because John Laurinaitis and Ricky Santana tried to recruit me to the power plant at that camp when WCW was still around. And I was like, John Laurinaitis, hey, you want to talk to you a minute? I think you look pretty good in there. I was like, man, I don't know shit.
You're starting.
They
You're
were just
green.
watching me do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You are green. You are green. You are basically green, and Laurinaitis have that kind of reputation of having the eye and try to make the first move. That's why.
Right. Yeah. So I was there, and then they just kind of kept up with me over time, and I wrestled. I ended up going. Oh, Dory and Marty were pissed. They said, "No, Gerald Briscoe sent you here. You're not going to WCW. We're going to work with you. WWE's going to." End up looking at you down the road. I was like, I didn't care. To me, a shot was a shot. I didn't care. Sure. I was looking to get my foot in the door any way I could. And then later on, there would be so many people came to Dory's camps. Like Pat Patterson would show up. God rest his soul. He was a cool guy. Jim Barnett showed up. JJ Dillon would show up. You would have just. Ted DiBiase showed up and worked with us a couple of times. I mean, you just had all different types of people that were would come in and would stop in for one of the many camps I went to there. So it was pretty cool. But and then kind of after that, I worked with Dory for a long time. I was dating a girl at the time, Summer. Her name was Summer Rain. And it was Summer McDonough, but her ring name was Summer Rain. But anyway, she was my girlfriend at the time. She was my manager. And stuff didn't work out. There ended up being a lot of heat with me and Dory and Marty because Summer didn't know how to shut up. She was one of those people. I was like, okay, listen, I understood the business about keep your mouth shut.
And listen.
Listen, do what you're told to do. She didn't. Okay. If she had stuck with me, we'd have been probably ended up being like Chris Candido and Sonny if we had stuck around.
That's a horrible story. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But anyways, I like the God rest Chris. I had some great matches with him. So, and Sonny, she was all right. She didn't bother me. She was cool. I mean, I know her past or whatever, her reputation, but they were always cool to me. So I didn't ever have an issue or heat with them or anything. But no, the thing is I could see that. And actually Marty would say that to me. Dory's wife would say, listen, you guys look like a Candido and Sonny down the road. You need to start rethinking some of your stuff. I was like, okay. She ended up, though, long story short, she ended up dating some other guy that was there. And it was actually a blessing in disguise for me. So they were like, listen, we're interested in you. We're not interested in the girl. I said, that's what Gerald Briscoe and a bunch of other people said. We're interested in you, not the girl. I was like, okay. So I didn't know. I just thought we're a team. So what the hell? Anyways, I ended up leaving Dory. I mean, time is time. Time is time to go. And we were talking, and Jerry Briscoe talked to me. He said, listen, I want you to come over and help out my son, Wes. And I'm sure you know Wes Briscoe pretty good. Of course,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's been in TNA and everywhere.
Great guy. Yeah, great. Yeah. Still talk to him this day here and there. We'll catch up every now and then because I pretty much was his high school coach by his senior year. I was pretty much was his personal coach his whole senior year. I mean, I literally was like his sports psychologist to his rehabilitation specialist, his personal trainer, and his wrestling coach that season. Like he literally, Briscoe, actually what happened was Victor Quinones, how everything changed. Victor Quinones came to Dory's camps. Eric Alexander showed up, a couple of guys like that.
Wow. Victor Quinones, the legend, promoter of IWA. And
he was there.
Yeah.
And he was interested. Dutch Mantell called me out of the blue one time. This is how I ended up in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
Dutch Mantell calls me out of the blue. Savio Vega calls my house, and they're talking to me, but you could tell that they kind of like me and Gerald, but they're also kind of like, you can kind of tell they're like, we're not sure about this kid. I could tell in the conversations.
Yeah.
Like, kid's a little green, but maybe we might do something with it. Jerry goes, I talked to Jerry, said, now listen, do you really want to go to this place? I said, hey, a shot's a shot, Jerry. He goes, all right, give me a minute. Calls me back a little bit later. He goes, you're not going to IWA. You're going to freaking World Wrestling Council in Puerto Rico. I said, and I had heard of it. I said, he goes, have you heard of Carlos Colon? I said, oh yeah. Cause I used to look at the wrestling magazines when I was a kid. So I used to see Carlos versus Abdullah, all their bloody friggin' battles and stuff. So I was very good on like wrestling history. So I knew my stuff. So I was like, awesome. He said, yeah, you're going to go work there. Well, what about them? He goes, don't worry about them. You're going there. I said, okay. He said, be honest with you, WWE at the time, WWE was kind of using IWA as like a little developmental area.
Correct.
I guess.
Yeah.
And he goes, here's the deal. We're actually thinking of parting ways with them soon. So it's really not smart for you to go there. Okay. He kind of like let me know the gist. He was kind of already letting me know that WWE's kind of interested in not working with them anymore. So he says, it was kind of pointless for you to go there. Why don't you go here? I was like, okay. So I talked to Dory. Dory was like, they didn't really like it. Dory was always cool. His wife was always, I don't want to have it. Well, it doesn't matter. I already have heat with her anyway. So
yeah, sure. Yeah, you are like,
she carries a grudge. Marty, Dory's wife carries a huge grudge. So it's like, you could like come up and say, it could be years later, and be like, hey, Marty, how you doing? It's been a long time ago. I love you. She'll be like, fuck you, Brent.
Yeah. Wow.
That's how she is.
Yeah, like that's her personality. Yeah. And
that's just how she is. But anyways, and I don't worry about it. I'm like, whatever. Yeah, okay, whatever. I love you too.
Yeah.
But anyways,
sure.
Long story short, we ended up there. I ended up in Puerto Rico. He told me he wanted me to help out Wes. Wes ended up having a really good year. He ended up qualifying for state. He didn't place, but he qualified. He had two torn rotator cuffs on both of his shoulders going into his senior year. So he was literally trying to like come back from an injury, and he ended up doing pretty well. he had like one loss, and he was like had one loss early in the year, and then he was undefeated the rest of the year, and then he ended up losing in the state tournament. He was out, but he did good. I mean, he for considering everything, he did really well. So the whole thing was working out. You know, Jerry had me going over there every day, talking with him. He said, listen, we're going to send you to Puerto Rico. Let's see how Carlos looks at you. He goes, listen, I'm going to tell you something right now. You go to work for Carlos. He goes, I don't care what he does. He goes, I don't care if he has you selling hot dogs, setting up a ring, working in the office. I don't care. You're there to learn this business. Fine. Not a problem. He said, well, you're going to have a tryout match with WWE before you go. Okay. My first tryout match. It was on SmackDown. That's actually on YouTube.
Yeah.
But
I was watching it yesterday.
But I edited the shit out of that match because it sucked. It was terrible. So it was like I when I got done looking at that match, I said, no wonder WWE ain't ready for I ain't ready here yet. Yeah. I said, because you know how you are, like all these guys. Here's the funny part about all these guys in this business. They all get in and then they all think they're fucking great.
Sure.
You're not. You got no clue. Okay. I was in this business. I was the same way. I come in, oh, I'm great, blah, blah, blah. And then I go to Puerto Rico and then I got slapped upside the face.
Wow. And
then I realized I didn't know nothing. Didn't have a clue. And I ended up in Puerto Rico. And the funny part is, but we'll go into it. We'll segue into the other thing. I show up at the place and I had an interview with Lucha Libre Online not too long ago. And they said,
wow.
Well, what happened there? I said, basically what happened was they dropped me off. Athletic coach sitting at the airport. I was like, okay, what the hell am I getting myself into? I show up. They take me to the office really fast. Atletico does. He doesn't speak no damn English at all.
Wow.
So I didn't know nothing. I'm sitting in the car with him. He goes, oh, Oficina. Okay. So I talked to Carlos and Jovica. They talked to me for like 5 seconds. All right, this is where you're going. You're going to Dahlia. You're going to show up at Juana Diaz on Thursday. Be ready to go. How do I get to Juana Diaz?
The famous Dahlia, man.
Figure it out.
Dump.
Figure it out.
That's crazy. The Dahlia, that building, man. So many memories.
I lived there for 5 years.
Wow. So many memories. So many wrestlers in Isla Verde. Like that, my God, you live there. You know, and it's crazy because that building is just crazy. It's just like today is like a dump, but you live.
Yeah, it's a dump in the middle of like a nice area.
Yes.
That's the funny part. It's a dive / condo hotel in the middle of all these really nice hotels.
Yeah.
What struck me, I walk out of a dive and I'm like looking around, going, there's all these nice buildings around here and shit and friggin' nice ass hotels. And then there's just this dive hotel in the middle. And I'm like, all right. But we show up there. It's funny. And they hooked me up with everybody. I had no clue what I was doing. So I go up and I said, all right. He goes, you're good? I said, yeah, I guess. So I get on the phone. I called Gerald Briscoe on a payphone. I didn't have a cell phone at the time yet. I hadn't bought one yet.
Wow.
And I picked up because back then, you know, it was kind of an iffy thing. People they didn't really have cell phones yet. This is like 2002. So people were still
people that were transitioning back then, you know, to just mobile. So
from going to house phones, pay phones to like
mobile,
cell phones. So I called it. I pick up the phone. I called Jerry. I was like, listen, I'm in Port. Did you make it? I said, yeah, I'm here. He said, what do you think? And I said, I don't know. I started talking to him a little bit about everything. He goes, well, did you meet Carlos? Yep. You got your first date? Yep. He goes, all right. He goes, well, I said, I don't know about this, Jerry. He goes, well, welcome to the wrestling business. Call me in a couple of months. Like, that was it.
Wow, that's crazy. And dude, you didn't
talk
like
sink or swim, kid.
You didn't talk like about pay and everything in that first day. Like they book your flight out of maybe Tampa, back then, and then you're like flying down to San Juan, Puerto Rico, unknown territory at the time known as being one of the most aggressive, bloodiest, craziest territories in the freaking world. You are
blood and guts.
Blood and guts, correct. You're an import. You get picked up in, there next to, Isla Verde, in the international airport of San Juan, and you go to the Dahlia, and then it's crazy. Then you leave your bags there. You go to the office, talk for 5 seconds. They give you your first date in Juana Diaz. That's the southern part of Puerto Rico, next to Ponce. for you and for you to just show up there and just face, who you faced that night in Juana Diaz, because I saw you
Ruben
on TV.
Pacino. Ruben Pacino.
Ruben Pacino. That's
and they
crazy.
told me that I was going to be a heel. When I first got there, they said, you're going to be a heel. I said, okay, that's cool. I didn't know any better. I was like, okay, cool. I'm still green as hell. I don't know any better.
Sure.
So I go, so anyways, they show up and they go, yeah, you're going to show up there. Okay. I get to the building. I end up meeting the market crashers.
Oh, wow. Yes, I remember Dow Jones and NASDAQ, those two guys. Yeah.
Exactly. They were there, and Justin Sane was there. At first, they were kind of standoffish with me because it's a new cat in the business, new gringo, so, and they could tell I was freaking didn't know what the hell I was doing. Anyways, funny part. Okay, here's the thing. Then they go, all right, well, you don't know what you're doing. You can ride with us. So, okay, that's cool. So they said, just have to pay for gas. I said, okay, not a problem. I got money. We're cool. They had already discussed my pay. Jerry told me before I got there how much I was going to be making a week. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. And I have to admit, a lot of people give BS to Carlos and Jovica about pay. They were always good with me.
Wow, so that's really cool because I'm very good friends with Primo Colon, Eddie Colon. You're good friend. You still many years. I know that you guys had a tremendous relationship. Was a photo that I saw. Yeah, I saw a photo, amazing photo of you and the Dahlia there, or maybe in one of the houses of Eddie and all that stuff, and you guys in a room, talking, and it was very cool. And then Orlando as well, that was coming out of Detroit, Michigan. Obviously, he was going to college there. That is obviously that's epico in WWE, but it's wild because that's one of the biggest things that everyone that I have talked to talk about. It's like, oh my God, like Jovica just short me on my pay and all that stuff. But it's great that you were respected with what you agree upon, on the pay, because many stuff, you've been in another country, you're not close to your parents, you are in the Caribbean, you're speaking English, in a country that's speaking Spanish, plus you have expenses, of course, because you're in the Dahlia, but you have to just, get your gas, you gotta eat, you got so many things, involved. But it's great to hear, that, hey, you were respected as a talent, and that never missed. I know that there's nothing is gonna be perfect in life, but it's good to know, that's great, So when Justin Sane, a tremendous stuntman in Hollywood these days, had tremendous matches with you.
Really?
Yes, he's a tremendous stuntman. Yeah, he's based out of Huntington
Beach. I wonder
Beach.
whatever happened to him. So that's pretty cool. I'm glad he ended up doing that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, he's in Huntington Beach, California. I'm definitely looking just to have him in the podcast. But he had tremendous matches with you. You had tremendous matches with Rey Mysterio as well. You had tremendous matches as well with Eddie Colon, obviously in that junior, heavyweight division. But yeah, like Justin Sane became a stuntman, and then you had back then so many other good guys, and it's wild because you come into the shuffle and you bring so much credibility to the division. I remember you cutting your first promo, and it was kind of like in general, but I never thought in a million years you were gonna become this crazy heel where people were throwing like beer to you. It was crazy. I remember going to Caguas one time and you coming with the American flag and the junior heavyweight champion and then the Puerto Rican championship. When you turn it to the U.S. championship, it was wild shit that I was watching. I was like, this is fucking crazy what I'm seeing, because you just flip the whole division and you give them visibility. People that were taking it too hard, man. Those Puerto Rican fans were like wild. It's like,
yeah, they wanted to kill me.
They were like, fuck Brent Dail. I'm like, what the heck is this? And you were going against guys, like Tommy Diablo back then was like a heel. You started as a baby face, but then after that, you became just a pretty like heel. Like everyone was like loving, like, and the company was seeing money with you being a heel, because I saw you there facing Alex, you were with Alex Montalvo, then you faced Alex Montalvo, then you were like, fighting like Muhammad Hussein, like Lou Fabiano, like a tremendous freaking like legend that, you were fighting people that you maybe saw growing up. It's just, how was that experience, in those first few matches, obviously with Justin Sane and, being in the division and starting to just study the psychology of the business, because I know that that's the part that is sometimes difficult, because you're like, I want to wrestle. You can wrestle, but if you're not understanding the vibe and the psychology inside of that arena, and you guys were doing pack houses. Like, I think that you were part of that last era where they were seeing pack houses. Now, like, wrestling in Puerto Rico have been rebuilt. But how was that experience, Brent? Like, those first few matches, like, what kind of, like, anecdotes or what kind of a special, like, things happen in that ring that you can tell us about? Because you had Mr. Casanova, you have, like, fights, you know, and you have, like, you know, tremendous matches with, like, Rico Suave, one of the Stratas that had to be a tremendous school for you, because he already had many years. Then you were like doing, matches, with Ricky Santana as your tag team, and Ricky and you were driving the whole island. Ricky was a veteran already.
He was my roommate actually at one time.
Yes, and so he came from Pacific Northwest. He already had a tremendous career. The guy was doing tag team with you with the Broncos, against the Broncos. Then you were doing, against Diabolico. That is another legend in Puerto Rico. Then you had matches with so many other guys that it's like Pablo Marquez, the half his school, down in Fort Lauderdale. Yeah. You got tremendous. You faced Rick Stanley, Maniac, one of the toughest dudes I have seen in the ring. That guy can take a beating and he doesn't even gouge. You had tremendous matches. Plus, what is crazy is that you were traveling as well to do tryouts constantly, or being an enhancement talent in Heat a couple of times too in WWE.
Yeah.
You were with the Amazing Jungle James Steele. That is your good friend, James Rocha, and he had his career in All Japan. You were doing matches with Bad Boy, with Enforcers, with, the son of Jason, that is, Wing Japan Jason, wild people, like wild guys. How were you able to adapt to those first few days and first few matches? How was that experience overall with psychology and everything?
Like, I looked at one of my old matches and I was like, oh my God, I sucked. I look back now and I looked at it. I really did what happened was the first night I showed up in Juana Diaz, I show up at the building and I get there. I'm going in as a heel. Right when I get there, they go, "No, you're not." So one of the security guys goes, "No, give me your bag." He took it over to the frickin' babyface locker room. He said, "No, you're going to be a babyface."
Wow.
Okay, whatever. So they sent me. I was new. I didn't know any better. So they sent me over there. Nobody knows who I am. So I go over there. Next thing I know, Invader goes, "Hey, you're a new guy, Brent Dail. Yeah, come sit down." So he starts talking to me, and he said, "Oh, you're friends with Gerald Briscoe." Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And we start talking or whatever. He goes, "Okay, tonight, this is what we're going to do, my friend." I said, "All right." He goes, "You're going to wrestle this boy, Ruben Bacino. I don't have anything for you yet as a finish. You go over one, small pack, something like that." I was like, "Okay, let's see how you do." I said, "Okay." So I show up. I met Carly and Eddie that night.
Yeah.
And they basically just put me as a baby face just so that they could have so they could kind of have an eye on me.
Sure.
Because being a heel is kind of like, at the time, I think a heel was just pretty much, you come in for a big program and then you're gone pretty much.
Correct.
I think they kind of saw me as an investment at the time. So they were like, "Okay, well, Jerry sent this guy here. We kind of see him as an investment. So let's see what we can do with this kid. We'll put him as a baby face and then we're going to groom him." I was like, "Okay." So that's pretty much what happened. I mean, I was getting surprised right and left. I mean, I'd get there and the next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call. They said, I get a knock on my door one day and they said, "Carlos," the lady at the office in Dahlia says, "Carlos told you, says to call him." Okay. Cause I hadn't had a cell phone yet. So I call him up and he goes, "Yeah, Ricky Santana's going to be your roommate." Okay, cool. He goes, "Yeah." You're gonna be. I was like, "All right, that's fine." But that's kind of weird how that happened. I'll actually give you a weird story. When I first got there, at first everything was kind of a little scary. I mean, sure. I didn't know a lot of stuff. So
yeah.
And I think one of my first couple of matches, I never tried to have heat with Invader, but I don't think he liked me. I think because
Invader doesn't like anyone. Invader doesn't like anyone. He's just. I have so many stories. I was talking to Shiki Star, and we were talking offline about you and all that stuff because we already scheduled the interview. But Invader, nobody likes the Invader, But the fans didn't like Invader, obviously, for the reasons of like the murder of Bruiser Brody and many other things, makes you like a big scumbag, to tell you that. Those are expressions of myself. Like, I had an argument with Invader many years ago when they said, "Hey, you want to interview the Invader?" I said, like, no, I'm not going to be interviewing a murderer. And I just a murderer and a person that really killed, like Bruiser Brody, such a legend. Wrestling doesn't have to go this far, and he just ruined the whole industry. And you to have that kind of like, interaction with Invader, so many people have been getting buried by him for so many years. And thankfully you were not. So you're one of those.
I'll tell you a funny story about that. I actually was starting to get over when I first got there. The fans liked me a lot.
Of course.
And I tried to like model myself after like Kurt Angle or Taz or something like that, just to try to look like a badass, because I didn't know anything.
Sure.
So I was like throwing towels over my head. I was sitting there walking in the arena like whatever. Anyways, I think he saw I was getting over, because I wrestled like this guy named Verdugo for a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
This guy was like
the mask guy.
He was
he got a mask and everything.
Yeah,
I remember. Yeah.
He was a little guy, but I swear to God, it was like throwing a bag of sand. I mean, this guy was like, he had a shit ton of weight in his ass. I was trying to suplex him everywhere. But anyways, I come in the back and Vader goes, amigo, we're going to talk. What I saw in that ring, I did not like. What's going on? You, from now on, are going to start walking to the ring. You're not going to talk to the crowd. You're not going to get the crowd into it. You're going to walk to the ring, do your match, and walk back. No fan interaction. I thought I was supposed to get over it. No, your work should get you over. Okay. So that little thing, because he told me to do that, I did it. Okay. It almost screwed me over with the office. Ricky thought I was vanilla ice cream because I was doing that. Thought I sucked. He said, I thought you were full with all this damn charisma. You suck. When he started living with me, he said, I watch your matches. You're technically sound in the ring, but you have zero charisma. And I'm like, he said, listen, I'm going to tell you something. This was after a couple of weeks to almost 3 months. They said, you need to do something. They're ready to send you home. They're done. I said, really? Well, what am I supposed to do? He goes, get over. You're not getting over. I said, okay. And I said, can I tell you something? He said, sure. And I told him the whole thing that Invader told me. And he goes, God damn, Pepe. Really? He goes, all right. He said, tonight we're going to be in Fajardo. He goes, I don't care what you do, Brent. I don't care if you turn around and pull your ass cheeks open and fart at the crowd. You're going to do something to get in a reaction. Okay. So I can now? He goes, yeah, do whatever you want to do. I said, okay. So I wrestled this guy's superstar that night. Yeah. I'm going there. And at first, Ricky told me I'm going over because Ricky was in the booking. He said, you're going up tonight. I said, okay, cool. So I want you to really show your personality. I said, okay, cool. You need to. And I said, okay. So when I get there, Invader changes the finish. He goes, you go Broadway. Broadway? This guy can't go 5 minutes. He goes, you're going to draw, time limit draw, 15 minutes. Guy can't go 5 minutes.
And Invader was booking back then?
Yeah, he was booking him, and it was during that time that Ricky and him were transitioning. Ricky was transitioning into being the booker, and they were kind of getting tired of Invader.
Of course, Invader. Who doesn't get tired of Invader, man? That guy doesn't have contribute shit to the business. Only that, he's known about just ruining the whole entire industry in Puerto Rico. Imagine you were gonna get screwed by him. Thank God Ricky came to save you and give you a lot of insight inside of the business and understanding the whole background of why he have done that. He did that with Richie Santiago. He did that with so many freaking amazing talent that I wish that he wasn't in that locker room, because he just limited them big time on what their career was. Yeah.
This was actually a crazy story. That night we do the match. I am literally picking this guy up at the end of the match. He is so dead. He literally he threw up in his mask in the ring. He was done. Atletico was like, end it. I got to go Broadway. He goes, I had to throw him out of the ring. I had to do whatever. I was literally just trying to get him through the whole match. He was dying. We go in the back, and I'm riding with Hercules of Dialogo at the time because baby faces. So, and Hercules has really given me a lot of pointers and stuff. So
the legend, Hercules Ayala, Hercules, the legend.
Yeah, I riding with him, and he was staying at the Dahlia at the time, and him and Ricky were like really putting me under their wing. And Ayala, we get in the back, and then Vader just chews my ass out. He's like, "What the hell are you doing in there, boy? Fucking, I told you to friggin' do this. I told you not to do this. I told you to do this." And he's yelling at me in front of the whole entire locker room.
That's very fucked up.
Screaming at me. And I'm like, "I'm sorry." You know what I mean? We get done. Hercules grabs me. He said, "Come here, kid." He says, "Don't take that shit." And I go, "Well, he's the booker. I'm not." He says, "Fuck him." All right. He says, "He's not helping this locker room." Brent, he basically told me he's on his way out. Okay. Ayala kind of knew what was going on. He goes, "He's on his way out." He goes, "Listen, go up there, give it some time, and then you go up and talk to him." He goes, "Don't take that shit from him." He said, "You could stretch his ass so damn easy, it ain't funny. You're a goddamn amateur wrestler. You fucking kick his ass." He said, "Don't take that crap from him." He goes, "I understand that you're green and you're trying to freaking learn, but you don't need to take that shit from him." I said, "Okay." So I left and I waited. He's sitting over there watching the matches. And I'm like, I come up to him and I was like, "Well, Mr. Invader," I was very respectful. I said, "Mr. Invader, can I talk with you a second?" He goes, "Sure." And I said, what's on your mind, Brent?" I said, "All right, listen, do you have a problem with me or something?" He goes, "Well, no. Why would you think that?" And then I started explaining everything. "I don't know. You don't want me to get over out there. I'm just trying to learn out here. I mean, what's going on here? You know what I mean?" He goes, No. He said, and I said, "I don't take good to negative criticism. I think, and I've been a coach, sir." I said, "Kids respond more to positive criticism than they do negative criticism. I understand that you have to do your thing and you got to do whatever, but that kind of crap don't work on me." And he goes, No. I'd never seen somebody backpedal so much in my life. He goes, No. It's not like that, Brent. I know you're trying to learn, but we're cool. No worries." He says, "I like what you're doing. Just keep up the good work. I'm sorry about the whole thing with." He started apologizing to me. And I said, "Okay, well, thank you, sir. I'll talk with you later." I walk away. The next day, or later on that day, I hear him in Spanish. Freaking that night, apparently he got pissed off or something like that because Carly and freaking Vampiro stole the show that night. And then he had to follow them. And it was in Fajardo's when I think Vampiro turned babyface or something like that. Brother, he was so pissed off. It came on top of that, whatever. You see him and Carlos just freaking yelling at each other in the back. They're speaking in Spanish, so I don't understand half what they're saying.
Sure.
Anyways, you could just tell they were freaking pissed at each other. The next day we show up on Sunday, and I thought Invader was going to be there. He don't show up. And they go, "Hey, kid, you're taking Invader's spot tonight in the main event." I go, "I am?" "Against Thunder and Lightning. You and Super Gladiator against Thunder and Lightning." I go, "Okay." And then freaking Super Gladiator looks at me and goes, "Man, I heard you ran off Invader." And I said, "No, I didn't." He goes, "That's not what I heard." He said, "I heard you gave Invader shit last night." I go, he goes, "I respect that." He goes, I said, "I didn't." He goes, "Oh, from what I understand," you know how the boys are. They talk shit.
Sure, of course.
He said, it's not just that. He was also arguing with Carlos, but apparently Carlos fired him on Monday or something like that. And then Ricky took over as the booker. But it was crazy, man. Listen, I have so many stories. I mean, it could take forever, but just a wild ride it was, Then after that, Ricky was like a drill sergeant. Like he literally goes, "No, that sucked." I mean, I remember doing interviews and he perfected my interview skills. He would I would do a promo and I think it was great. And he goes, "Man, that sucks. Do it again." 10 takes later. And I'm so pissed off. "That sucks. Do it again." Like, oh, shit.
You're ready to leave the studio. You're like, "I'm not freaking recording an interview."
Yeah, exactly. And then I get one promo and I thought it sucked. He goes, "Okay, good. Print that one." And I go, "That fucking sucked." Well, that's good. Do that one.
You and Ricky you and Ricky are great friends, and Ricky's just a great.
Yeah, we're still brothers to this day, but it was just, Ricky was something else. He taught me a lot in this business, especially my first 2 years there. He taught me a lot. He really did. He took me under his wing and kind of told me how to. Because when I first got there, I mean, I started like dating a lot of like Latino women later on, but you know, I said, you know what, I might as well live the character and stuff like that and do what I got to do. When I first got there, I was like so mesmerized by so many pretty women, you know. And he talks to me and he says, one time he goes, and I don't know, there was some girl at like a radio or like at a TV station that thought I was hot or something.
Sure.
And he was like, and she was on one of these like dancing one of those No Te Huemas shows or whatever.
No Te Huemas, yeah, every Monday at night, 8
one of
p.m.
those style of shows, you know what I mean? And he was like, man, this girl thinks you're hot. And I said, oh, really? He goes, listen, don't be a mark for the chocha. I was like, all right, I won't. He goes, let me ask you a question, kid. Is she on TV? Well, yeah. You working for Carlos, you're already a bigger star.
True.
Okay?
True.
So you're the star, not them. Remember that. I said, okay. And my whole attitude changed after that. I kind of got what he was saying after that. So it was like, it was interesting, man. I just took to heart a lot of what they said, you know, like Carlos and Jovica would tell us, you know, we got to bring in the girls around here. We got to do all this kind of stuff. We got to, you know, try to bring, you know what I mean? Trying to bring in the fans. Cause at one point, you know, after Ray Gonzalez left, which kind of sucked, but after he left, WWC was like, we were like trying 2004, all that here. We were like fighting to stay afloat.
You were on a lifeline. Yeah, you guys were on a lifeline and they were relying more on the talent. And back then, you know, 2004, when he left, you know, you were, you know, in angles with Alex Montalvo and then with Maniac, and you were with Rebelde, and you were with all these other great, wrestlers. And, you know, it was a tough time because Mr. Ratings, Ray Gonzalez, I think one of the best pound for pound and one of the most experienced wrestlers by far, you know, that have come out of Puerto Rico. But not only that, facing like imports and bigger names, like, but I'm talking about big names like Billy Gunn, Billy Kidman. You have like, you know, the cream of the crop, like, you know, Reagan.
He worked with everybody, you know, yeah. Scott Steiner. I mean, he's worked with so many different great talent that's come through, and it's just like, I mean, he's the man there, you know. So it's like, and he even told me one time when we went out one night. I think it was like one night we showed up at the. I went out one night. I was with Eddie and Carlito and Carly, and we ran into Ray, Dutch Mantel, Savio Vega, and Terry Funk.
Do you have a camera over there to just record Café of Nuevo Milenio with the new Millennium family? That would be crazy.
We literally ran into Condado.
That is wild. Just running to all these freaking people. Those are legends. Dutch Mantel was the booking back then, and obviously one of them. He still holds the records for the record of more or most, hours produced on TV in Puerto Rico.
Exactly.
And obviously Dutch is just a genius on the business.
Guy.
You know, he's an amazing guy. It's my bucket list. I wish that I can definitely talk to Dutch and.
He's a very tremendous. I mean, my last couple of years in Puerto Rico, he was there kind of assisting, you know, besides being a TNA, and he would ride with me to the shows, and he would just constantly just critique everything and would just try to pour a lot of knowledge into me and say, hey, listen, I got fortunate to meet a lot of different, and every person, I swear to God, that I talked to treated me like they were like I was a sponge and they were like pouring knowledge into. Every person I talked to was like that. And I remember one night we showed up at we went to that place in Condado and we went and had a drink. We were in some little kayfabe bar and we're talking, and Ray Gonzalez starts talking to me, and I'm pretty brand new there, you know, and he's like, you know, he had already left, and I go, and he said, hey kid, you know, come over here, we'll talk. He goes, listen. I said, man, it sucks that you left. Why'd you leave? He goes, you know, me and Carlos Jovica not having good, you know, and there more money opportunities, stuff like that over here. He goes, but I got something to tell you. You're being groomed to be the next Ray Gonzalez in WWC. I said, really? He goes, listen, I said, with all due respect, Ray, I'm the next Brent Dail. I'm not the next Ray Gonzalez. He goes, I respect that. He goes, which I respect though. I respect that. I was like, yeah. So it was like, he was I remember that was one of the conversations we had. He goes, he was a cool guy. I liked him. He was like, but I understood, man. I started to get how business was because I wasn't really understanding of like cutthroat business. And I had a huge education in business and cutthroatness and stuff like that. And just, they'd be like, fuck that guy. But then they'll do business with him. You know what I mean? And they basically told me, like Jovica and Carlos would always say, hey, listen, I don't have to like the guy to do business with him. I was like, I get it. I think I hate his guts, but we'll do business together. And I was like, okay. I get it. I didn't understand it, but I started to learn about like how it's kind of it's a hug, but a stab in the back at the same time while they're brother talks and stuff like that. That's just how it is. But no, there's just so many things. I mean, you might have to segue me into this so you'd start talking about more stuff and then I'll.
No, of course. It's just crazy because like you talk about the business and obviously the business is such an important part, obviously in wrestling, and the business in wrestling is just different than any other industry because you have to put your life on the other people's hands and you have to make sure that you're aware if something's going on because you have to communicate. Right. Plus, WWC is very different than IWA, and I will tell to all the thousands of people that they are listening to us because, I think that we all, Brent and I, we checked out because this conversation has been amazing. So WWC works in separate locker rooms, heel, babyface. IWA, different. It's just one locker room. So you basically, you set everything up on that ring. That makes you more valuable at the end of the day just to tell the story. And you were telling stories without just being able to talk before going into that ring,
And tried calling spots with guys that don't know how to speak English.
That's crazy. How do you overcome that barrier? Because I was going to ask you, I'm like, how do you overcome that barrier with Super Gladiator? Or you talk about the your brothers, or how do you just overcome that with Chris Joel or Abad or TNT? TNT, obviously Savio Vega, obviously it's a different story. But, how do you overcome those, those language barriers? Because when you were in that coal miners, famous coal miner match with Chris Joel where you crowned yourself as the Puerto Rican heavyweight champion and the dog collar match and the lumberjack match, because you did create with Chris Joel shit that was wild. How do you talk and overcome those hurdles in regards of like language? Because that's a big component of the whole story.
Yeah. Well, Chris and me, he never really, I don't think he ever really learned a lot of English. He learned enough. But me and him, I got to where after a while I would talk. It was really weird how I talked to people. They could understand me and I could understand them. Like just by body language, eye contact, things like that. Okay. And then I made an attempt to understand spots in Spanish. I made attempts to learn that. Then in turn, a lot of guys would learn how to call spots in English. They might not know how to speak English, but they would understand enough to where I would I could call it in English and Spanish where they would understand it. So how I learned Spanish was learn how to call a lot of spots. And then I started getting better at speaking Spanish here and there. I got real good at, here's the thing. My Spanish was funny when I went to Puerto Rico.
Sure.
At first I didn't speak Spanish and people treated me like dog shit. And then later on I go, well, maybe if I attempt Spanish, maybe it might work. So I would walk up to people and I attempt to speak it. And then they would go, well, we know you don't speak English. I see you on TV. I know how to speak English. I know you don't know Spanish. I was like, okay. Y'all like kayfabing me here? It's that they teach it at the schools here.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. So that's how it would work. I would attempt it and then people would speak English back to me. So it was like, it was kind of like a lot of it. And then I would attempt to speak the language, or I would learn different things, or I walked around with I kid you not, because we didn't have Google Translator. So I would literally walk around with like a Spanish to English dictionary, and I would have it in my hand and reading something, trying to talk to somebody. And then they would like, all right. And then they would get it, you know, and then guys would translate and stuff like that or whatever. It got to where I was livable. I knew how to survive, and it got to where, you know, my promos, I would ask Carlos, do you want me to speak in Spanish? He goes, no, I don't. I want you to speak in English.
Yeah, because he wanted to have Brent Dail with heat, because that draws money. People want to see, oh my God,
yeah.
they're gonna kick his ass tonight. And the whole thing is like, you are one of those amazing wrestlers in the history of Puerto Rican wrestling that you won more times than what you lose on the ring. So so people were always super angry. I remember watching the Salvador Hijos Ponce, like, you know, arena, like on the Coles Minor. That arena was like an oven. It was, you guys were sweating your life away, Chris Joel and yourself. People had so much heat on you, and when you won, people, they were more even angrier. I was like, this is magic. And for you guys to tell magic and just be able to tell that story the way that you guys did in Dog Collar and Lumberjack and Coles Minor, it was wild, because you didn't get that those days. So you were writing history you may not even knew back then. But now, you know, the story that you were able to tell, you know, you became one of the most, you know, condecorated, and I think one of the most, you know, well accepted, and one of the biggest heels of maybe the past 20 years that the island have seen.
Well, I do. I thank you very much. I do. I'm honored to hear that. Thank you. I remember, I'll tell you a story one time how I met, how Evilise was actually introduced into the wrestling business.
Wow. Another legendary woman. Yeah. In the business. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Juliet, you know, at the time, she actually, they came in one night and saw, I think, Jose Estrada had been my manager, and they were kind of testing it out, and they go, this is what we want you to do. So I don't have Estrada as my manager anymore. They go, no, we're going to put this girl as your manager. Okay. That's fine. I said, let me ask you a quick. They said, all right, here's the deal. This is what we want you to do. She speaks Spanish very well, but she speaks English very well. I was like, okay, but we want to get some heat with her. I said, okay, so what do you want me to do? I don't know, come up with something. Okay. So I walk up to her and I say, hey, can you do something for me? She says, sure, whatever you want. I said, this is what I'm going to do tonight when we're in Ponce, because they want me to go out and do a promo. I was like, when you come out there, I'm going to say that I've converted your women. That I'm converting your women. She has blonde hair now, blah, 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 blah. I said, and I even taught her some English. Here you go. Tell her what I taught you, honey. I put it in her face, and she goes, I love the USA. Is that correct? Is that right? See? And she goes, the whole crowd just started throwing shit at me. They started throwing empanadillas. They started showing Medallia beer at me. I was like, oh, they wanted to kill me. And I go, and I'm like, I'm just doing this around the ring. They look, I've converted your women here. That's how bad it's getting. I walk in the back. Carlos goes, Brent, what are you doing, man? I said, he goes, you're going to cause a freaking riot in here. I said, well, you told me to do something, so I did it. I walked out that night. They slashed my tires on my rent-a-car. People would slash my tires. They were laughing. People were like, guys on the boys were laughing. They go, what happened? I go, you slashed my tires. Oh, don't worry about it, man. I'll give you a ride. Eddie was like, hey, man, walk over there and I'll give you a ride. Don't worry about it. We'll come back and get it tomorrow. Okay. But anyways, we come back the next week, and the crowd doubled in La Paya de Ponce. It literally doubled to tripled. It was packed.
Yes, because you brought so much heat. Like, that's people bought into it. And I still feel that wrestling Puerto Rico carries some credibility to this day.
Yeah.
Like, it's just wild, you know?
Well, here's the funny part there. This is what's funny. Carlos goes, he told me, don't do that again. You're going to cause a riot. I come back the next week. He goes, hey, Brent, you know what you did last week? Yeah,
do it again.
Do it again.
Do it
He's
again.
Like, can you do it again? I go, I thought you told me not to. He goes, you look at the fucking crowd out here? He goes, do it again. I said, well, okay, I'll come up with something. He goes, all right, I trust you. I was like, okay. But Bronco was the booker at the time, and he was not happy about that shit. He was yeah, I had a little, I tried not to, I had a little heat with Bronco because after Ricky left, he tried to bury me.
Yes.
Like, literally bury me.
Yes. And that's the whole thing. Like Bronco, Ramon Alvarez, the guy, they obviously Bronco is Dominican, wrestler, very famous, of course, one of the biggest, Dominican wrestlers that they have come out of the island. In the country, in the Caribbean, after Jack Veneno, the famous Jack Veneno, that who beat Ric Flair for the NWA Heavyweight Championship with a sleeper holder.
Yeah, I remember the story.
That's a wild story. But yeah, like Bronco had a lot of heat too, and him as a booker, and obviously those stories of burying talent and all that stuff. And one of the things that I really don't understand sometimes, like a booker have to look for the well-being of the company, healthiness, and every single talent to be able to use.
I don't.
Yeah, and I don't know why they still.
I don't feel like he didn't.
He didn't. He didn't care about the product, and the same thing as Pepe. They don't freaking care about. They were caring about their egos and their own freaking stories and all that shit. And really, that really affected tremendously the whole line of WWC and many other talent that were there.
Well, I actually tell you the story how I ended up getting heat with him. There was a funny story that was between the boys. It started out this way. When I first started out, or a couple of months I'd been in there, crap wasn't going well for me, but Fidel and Ricky kind of took me under their wing, and they were like, listen, we're going to get you over, kid, with the boys. I said, okay. Because I was basically like jobbing out everybody. I was like enhancement talent for a while. So I was working with Fidel one night, and I was a baby face, and he says, we're going to have a shoot match. You're going to shoot in there on Fidel. Okay. Fidel because Fidel's a good guy and he's a shit talker too. So he's sitting in there in the office. He's everywhere. He said, just follow my lead, kid. They tried to make it a shoot, like a total shoot, like me and him hated each other, right?
Yeah.
Arguing back and forth, and we're in the office.
Literally, they hate each other, and I don't know how they work with each other because really, they really hate it. Literally, David Sierra, the amazing Fidel Sierra, one of the tremendous legends, one of the best, part of the Cuban Assassins, the Renos, is just crazy because, like, you and him go back, and you guys are tremendous friends, and him and Fantasy, tremendous people, outside of the ring. But it's wild because you guys understand each other, but Bronco maybe didn't take that good.
Well, what happened is we're the thing, and they were like, listen, you guys are going to shoot on each other. They did a bet. He goes, we're driving to the town, and this is a funny story. They go, we're going to work the boys. I said, what are we going to do? We're going to make some money tonight. I said, Ricky was like, we're going to get everybody to bet on Fidel. Okay. $10. Everybody $10. Everybody's going to bet on Fidel that he's going to beat you in a shoot match. Okay. And Ricky goes, I'm going to bet on you. A couple of, whatever. He got the whole entire locker room to bet on Fidel. Both sides of the locker room. Anyways, they asked Hercules, like, Ali, you want to get in on this? He goes, no, because that kid's going to kick Fidel's ass. So then we get out there, and they got him to bet. Like, guys were throwing in 20s, 40. They were throwing, Fidel's going to whoop this kid's ass, right? So all the boys come out to watch. Fidel was like, all right, kid, take it easy, Albie. So we start going at it. And then I'm taking Fidel down. I'm like, whatever. He's like, all right, kid, loosen up a little bit. Like, all right. Next thing you know, everybody's like, holy shit, this fucking kid's beating the hell out of Fidel. And they said, first takedown, like, whatever. So I ended up like belly to belly suplexing like Fidel. Anyways, the whole thing, you look over and the whole crowd's like, fuck. They're like yelling and shit like that. Ricky's walking by collecting all the money. And we get in the back, we get in the car, and then they start divvying up the money. All right, kid, here's your thing. Here's mine. Here's that. Good job on that. I said, okay. Well, what happened is Bronco sees this whole thing. So we're in Yauco one afternoon on a Sunday, and he comes up to me, and I just got done working. I don't even know who I was working. I think I was working like Kid Romeo or something. I don't know.
WCW guy. Yeah. WCW guy. Yeah. Kid Romeo. Yep.
Yeah. And I was working him or something. He was on his way out. He was putting me over or something like that. I walk in the back, and Bronco said, hey, Gringo, come here, sit down. Okay. And he barely talked to me, barely said a word to me. And he goes, oh, yes, I see your match with Fidel. He goes, yeah. He goes, I hear you're Lucha Olympico. I said, well, yeah, yes, sir. He's like, because I'm very respectful of everybody. I mean, I'm new. I was like, you know, I knew he was a star. I was like, he goes, hey, you think you can shoot with me? And I go, I Lucha Olympico in Dominican Republic. Okay. Yeah, sure. Anytime. He goes, let's go now. In the locker room. Okay. I have my shoes off. I'm just about to get into a shower. All I got is my tights on. Took off my boots. I've already taken off my knee pads. I've done everything. He just got done working. Or actually, he hadn't worked yet. And he's sitting there and goes, let's go. I said, you fucking kidding me? No, I'm not kidding. Let's go. Carlos is in there. Jovica's in there. The whole entire damn locker room starts watching. Me and Bronco go at it in a shoot match.
That is crazy.
I kicked right in the middle of the locker room. I kicked his ass. I was like throwing him in the lockers. I was like freaking putting him on the ground. I fucking put him in a chokehold. I was like, I had him ready to choke him out. And then he goes, I said, all right, you either go or you're going to tap. He goes, he taps. I get up. Right when I get up, he tackles me from behind. And then I freaking changed position, put him on his back, did it again. I said, you can do this all day, and I'm going to put you in this right and left. So you either stop or we're going to keep doing it, because he was getting pissed. Like it was his ego.
Of course, yeah, ego. He always got to carry an ego, yeah.
So after that happened, when Ricky was ready to dip out as a booker, he came back as a booker. He never forgot it. So I lost to everybody. I was putting Jason over in like freaking 3 minutes. I'm like, he is like, and Ricky, I was like really pissed off. Ricky was like, dude, just fucking deal with it. You can't leave. Just deal with it. I said, okay, what do I need to do? He goes, no, just deal with it. You'll be fine. Take some time. When I became the Puerto Rican champion, I heard him in the booking meeting just bitching. No, we don't need to make this kid blah, 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 blah. He was saying it in Spanish, but I could understand him. And he was like, I remember, the match that we had with Chris Joel, the freaking on the pole match.
Yeah.
On the pole match. Joel was actually supposed to go over that night. So he was supposed to win.
Why? Why so much heat, man? For nothing. Like, because the guy want to like prove his ego. Just so fucked up. Everything.
Yeah. Carlos goes, they're sitting in the back, and Carlos goes, no. Guys, hear Carlos changing the fish. No, he's going up. Look at the goddamn crowd. You can see Carlos was getting pissed. Gentes, looking at the people. It's doubled in size. What are we going to do? You're going to you want to take a title off the guy after he's already freaking
making money.
The business around
you were making thousands of dollars. That's the whole thing. And you guys were recouping from Ray Gonzalez, leaving to IWA. And
it was a big seesaw. And it was so much. And you know why that things started getting better? I used to watch IWA all the time just to watch. And it would piss me off because I was like, no, I know we're better than this. One day I just got up and I said, you know what? I'm not watching this shit no more. Saturday and Sunday, I'm done watching this. I'm going to focus on our program. So I did. And that was during the time that I was getting my push as the Puerto Rican champion.
Yep.
And we just started doing really well. And the next thing I know, I one day I flipped on the channel. I see Shane's trying to do a damn gimmick where he's fighting against Puerto Rico. Oh, I'm friggin' turning heel, and I'm like, what are y'all copying our ass? You know what I mean?
IWA was not big on copying, but you can see some of the lines about it, and Shane obviously being one of those baby faces that landed in Puerto Rico and never left, with the Canadian Glamour Boys.
He was great.
He was great.
He was great. I had some good matches with him.
I thought that Shane would have become something if he wasn't the Glamour Boy. I thought that, if he didn't have that much of Glamour Boy, or the Nature Boy Ric Flair in his persona in so many ways, I think that he will have go, even farther than what he went, in Puerto Rico. But I guess that he made a very good living. He started training over there, a lot of wrestlers too. He now lives in Tampa, Florida, where you reside, and he have a moving company, and he worked with TNA a couple of years, and then he said, I'm done with the business because the business is tough, and It's getting more and more smaller, I think. And now,
well, I think you got a lot of guys now, and nothing against a lot of guys in the business, but you got a lot of yahoos that were allowed in.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of those guys don't want to listen. I don't really. I mean, I'm not going to try to start anything with anything, but to be honest with you, some of the product I see nowadays, I look at them and I go, "You're not believable to me."
No, it is not believable. Brent, you're completely hitting the nail. It is not believable because you have celebrities, influencers going to the performance center. An example in WWE. Nothing against WWE or any organization that they want to take their approach specifically with their own company. That's their own approach. But a lot of, like, an example, legends as Dusty Rhodes or the Briscoes or the Funks, or an example, Brody or Stan Hansen, or many of those amazing names were extremely protective, and they really didn't allow everyone going to the locker room or basically going to the business just to protect the business and keep that, believability, just believe in the business and be able to just provide a strong product. And I think that over the years that have been violated with the booking, of course, with the performance center. I'm not saying wrong that performance center has tremendous talents, but they have to be a respect and appreciation for what the business is. And when you start to bring, like, guys that they're not from the business to start to write stories, it's problematic, I think, because you're not bringing the essence of, like, what really made the company or what really is going to make stars and be able to have a diverse portfolio of stars where you can monetize them and provide them a very good living as well. Because the Attitude Era, nothing going to compare to that. Nothing is going to compare to that. And I'm not using the Attitude Era as a measuring stick, but you have the 80s with NWA and even WWC with tremendous, freaking amazing feuds that they still talk to this day. You're never going to see like something like that. That's why I say that the last of that we've seen in Puerto Rico of a tremendous story of an import coming to Puerto Rico and creating a career, as close as you have what you have created, bringing, the houses up when they were down. There's nothing going to come close to it to this point because the kayfabe is no longer there. You see them, an example, wrestling tonight and tomorrow in Instagram, and all that stuff really affects the business, and that have to be protected in some kind of way. You got to keep, bring some legitimacy, to the business. And I don't know how that can be fixed. I don't know if something could be done these days at this point to fix the business, but you were in the golden age, of the 90s and 2000s, in the island.
I feel like that when I was there, I don't think that I realized the impact I had. Like down the road, I don't think I realized it, but you kind of get a lot of guys, not just you. There's been other people that have told me, listen, brother, you don't realize the impact you had on this island. I go, okay. I didn't know. I was just like, I just went there and did my job. And here's the deal. When I really realized that I made a difference was this was my final draw being in Puerto Rico. We had the last anniversary show. I think it was anniversary, say 2006.
Correct. 2006. You were, I think, Lockout. It was like Lockout. You were at Lockout in 2006 and you were facing, I think, Mr. 450, Mecha Wolf.
I wrestled, I know. Cause I wrestled so many guys that started their careers. It wasn't funny. Like anywhere from Orlando, Colon to Mecha Wolf to, God, how many guys? Godly, so many BJ. I'm just trying to think. There's so many guys that they would have me work with.
You got Rick Stanley. And, you were with Huracan Castillo. Then you were like,
Hurricane Castillo.
Superstar Romeo.
Castillo taught me a lot. Cheeky Star kind of brought me under his wing a lot.
Yeah.
As a heel, when Roddy Piper came through, Roddy Piper helped me out a lot. Roddy Piper basically said, "Hey, you're hanging with me for this entire weekend. I'm here." And the guy literally poured knowledge into me. He goes, "Yeah, Jerry wanted me to talk to you." I said, "Okay." He said, "I know you're a heel here. I watched your match. You're doing good." He goes, "This is what I want you to do from now on. This is how you're going to draw money here." I said, "What's that?" "You need to make everybody think that you are absolutely fucking nuts." I said, "Okay, you're not a big guy. You're like me. We're not big dudes." He goes, "You're in a land of giants. He goes, you got to make everybody think that you are absolutely out of your mind. And I go, okay, you need to make the fans believe it, the promoters believe it, the boys believe it. Everybody's got to think that you are out of your damn mind. I said, okay. So he said, just be friggin' nuts. I go, okay, cool. So on my promos, that's how I was. I talk shit all the time. I was like this. Some people got it. Some people didn't. Some guys in the business, some guys would get offended at me and stuff. You don't get what I'm trying to do. But other guys got it. They go, listen, he's trying to draw money here. He's trying to bring some credibility to this place. Whatever. Some guys got it. Like Eddie got it. Rico Suave got it. There's a lot of guys. So that's why a lot of these guys were pushing me with a lot of these guys, because they understood what I was trying to do. So it was like, listen, we need to make a better product here. IWA's kicking our ass. We need to do something here. So it was just, that was the whole thing. But what I was talking about, the last anniversary show, I kind of get off on tangents, man. My apologies.
No. This is awesome. Yeah. Hey, Brent, this is awesome.
Yeah. Well, what happened was I was at the last anniversary show. I get there, and I was supposed to go up that night on Jose Rivera Jr.
Yep.
I was supposed to. When I get there, Ricky told me I am. They changed it on me because Jose Rivera Sr. decided to put some money behind WWC. So they changed the finish on me at the last minute. And they go, Jose Rivera Jr. is going up to win the junior heavyweight title. Okay, that's fine. I didn't care either way.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. And so I walk out that night for anniversary. Now we're in Bayamon. Place is packed. I mean, it's wall to wall packed. I mean, we complete sellout.
Yeah, that was in the Pepsi Estero Arena. That was, just to tell you, that was in December the 8th, 2006. And that was a 9-minute and 32-second match that you had with him. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I walked out there, it was so funny. The crowd did not boo me. I thought I was going to get booed. They walked out there. People had American flags standing up in the air. And most of the time, people would throw shit at me during the damn national anthem. People stood up and put their hand over their heart and listened. And I'm like, wow. I'm looking around like, holy shit. I got posters that say Brent Dail is WWC. I was like, it was overwhelming. I just walked out. I almost got a tear in my eye that night. And I'm just sitting there looking around, and the whole entire crowd's like standing up for me. And I'm like, they booed the shit out of freaking Jose Rivera Jr., and he was supposed to be the baby face. They booed the hell out of him. And I was like, Carlos goes, what the hell's going on here? They're cheering you. I was like, I don't know.
You won every single fan with, hey, people in Puerto Rico tend to respect the heel when he's already become a heel for so long. People there start to buy. It's like, this he just talks, but he just back it up in the ring. Not everyone can say that. Jose Rivera Jr., perfect. Yeah, you know, he was a wrestler only on Puerto Rico, even though his dad was a legend in Puerto Rico, maybe in Worldwide Wrestling Federation, but he didn't have an impact in the junior, heavyweight division. And you won that night. And what is the crazy part is that next day, he loses against you. So it was like, it didn't mean that much, that winning, because then you're in Mayagüez in the other side of the island, 9-minute, 51 seconds.
Back, so it was like, whatever.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, it is crazy. And then you become again junior heavyweight champion.
I ended up winning it. They have that wrong. I actually won it 10 times.
Yeah.
So
you had it 10 times, correct? And then
they didn't want to recognize that. That's the funny part. They didn't, because I was the first 10-time junior heavyweight champion. They didn't want to recognize it, so they were like, "Oh no, he's 9." No,
you are.
I wanted 10. I wanted 10.
Yeah, you won. You won. Then after that, a 3-way dance. Against Mr. 450 Hameda, just beginning Mecha Wolf, beginning his career, and then Jose Rivera Jr. In a 12-minute and 22-second match. In Caguas, and then after that, you were in WWC for, sometime then, but after that, there were good matches that you had, but, Brent, you maybe were at that point saying, I want to do something different, because you were. Well, what happened? Because you jumped to the IWA, and I was like, what the fuck happened here?
Well, what happened was basically, I kind of realized there was a glass ceiling. That day, after anniversary, I realized there was a glass ceiling.
Gotcha.
That I might not get past. Brian at that time. He was a good friend of mine. Me and him were boys. We're still friends to this day. Anyways, he comes into Carlos and Jovica, and apparently the internet blew up talking like at anniversary that I had the best match of the night. Which, because when I walked in the back, I told everybody, I go, follow that. And nobody followed it. You had Carlito on the freaking crowd. You had Shane on the freaking show. You had all these stars on this show that night, and nobody followed that match.
Yeah.
And we get in the back, and Brian calls me and says, hey, listen, I'm talking to Carlos and Jovica. I want to wrestle you. I'm the Universal Champ. I want to elevate you. I feel like that you need it. He calls me back. I said, okay, go ahead. Pitch it to him, whatever. That's fine with me. He calls me and he goes, no dice. What do you mean no dice? He goes, they don't want to do it. I said, why? They just started talking, whatever, give me a bunch of shit. So I was like, I was in the office that day and I was working in the office. And I said, I wanted to talk to Carlos and Jovica. I said, hey, listen, why don't we talk for a minute? And I said, I heard Brian wants to work with me. Why is this not going to happen? I'm one of the hottest heels you got. What do you want to do? Brian is willing to turn babyface to work with me. Oh, we can't do that. No, what's going on here, Brent? You draw as a package card. I said, I pretty much drew half your houses, Carlos. They wouldn't give me any credit. They just said, no, blah, 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 blah. You're not as good as you think you are, da, da, da. They were like, literally like,
wow. Those are powerful words after you being loyal for them for years.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Well, they even tested it one night. Here's the funny part. After that, Abad was the champ or something like that, or the Universal Champ. Somebody didn't show up that night. So they changed the card up that night in Orcovis. The crowd was packed. And they go, because I have to admit it to Carlos and Jovica, how they beat IWA was they started going to all these small towns more, and started drawing big in the small towns. IWA would only stick to like a couple of towns, like maybe like
it was like Caguas, like Bayamon, like Arecibo, and then you had like a couple. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that was it. And we would go everywhere. So what would happen? We go to damn.
You were going to
Hayuya.
Yeah, Hayuya. I'm like, nobody was doing Hayuya. Anyone.
Yeah, and we'd have to, but it looked good. It was good aesthetics for TV. It looked really good. And because our crowds would look packed, and they did. They were packed to the gills because those small towns would draw. So anyways, we're sitting there, and they're talking, and they tell me all this shit. And in Orcovis, they tried it out, and they did a title versus title match where Universal Champ versus Junior Heavyweight Champ. They did they did it on the spot, like a 2 out of 3 falls match. I won one match, Obad won the other match, and then we draw it on the last one. So it kind of elevated me a little bit. That's why they kept that title on me, because they didn't want to quite have me as the Universal Champion, but they were like, and I told them, I said, listen, I am not going to get known by WWE unless I'm the top draw on this card.
Correct.
It's not going to happen. And they, for some reason, just were not having it. We're not listening. And to be honest with you, I know what it was. They didn't want to lose me.
Of course.
They didn't want me to leave. So they were like trying to keep me down a little bit. And you don't understand. I ended up having me and Jovica sometimes would drive me home sometimes from the office. And Jovica would tell me all kinds of stuff, like trying to be a better, maybe one day open up your own company, getting good with the government. He started telling me all the stuff he does, like political wise, and how I learned a lot about how Jovica does business from talking to him. Well, anyways, he starts talking to me, and me and him just start freaking arguing in the car. He's like, I said, that I draw you money. This shit, blah, 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 blah. No, he's talking shit. He's like, no, you are not top draw. I go, how can you say that? You have fans that freaking are saying that shit. You're even trying to silence fans. I mean, me and him had a freaking, we were going at it. And I said, you know what, Jovica, this light let me out. I'll go get the bus. And he goes, no, it's not like that. Let's go have a beer. Let's go sit down and have a beer. I go, okay. So we talk, and he's trying so hard to convince me, of not being the top draw. And I'm trying to sell him on being the top draw. I said, you have your champion wanting to work with me and possibly drop the belt to me. And you guys are like, because he already sees what there is, you know? No. And I saw how it was. I knew how the politics were. I started to see it then. And I was like, all right, I finally got it.
Yeah.
So I was like, so he drives me back. They're doing everything to make me happy. They're like, kept the title on me. They kept the junior heavyweight title. And I started saying I'm the pound for pound best. I started saying that shit because I started acting like Floyd Mayweather. I'm the pound for pound best on this island, blah, 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 all that kind of shit. Because I was trying to get them to understand, no, I need to be the top of this card.
Correct. And you had everything and you really were doing money. You were making money for the company.
So that's where I was. And then I said to myself, I said, you know what? When Christmas rolls around, I'm done. I already see it's not going to go anywhere. This just, as much as hard as I try, and it's not going to go anywhere. So I said, I'm going to try my hand at WWE, see if they'll look at me one last time. They did. But I feel like the Carlos and Jovica kind of maybe buried me a little bit after that when I was ready to leave. And if you don't notice this, you notice how after there was a certain point when I left Puerto Rico, Carlito started getting buried by WWE.
Oh, yeah.
That, you know why? Because I think there was a mutual relationship there to where we sent this kid to you, make him happy, and we'll make your kid happy. We'll push him, da-da-da. When I was ready to leave, then it flipped on Carlito.
Yeah, because you were there with the blessing of Gerald Briscoe.
Right. And then after that happened, it was like, So a buddy of mine that was like this guy that was this big fan, he was like, when I got back, I was burnt out. And this guy was like, man, I've watched you on freaking YouTube. I've seen your matches. I've been studying, figuring. And I was like, dude, I've got fans over here. I was dumbfounded by it. And the guy was like, no, man. He calls me one night and says, watch Raw right now. Turn it on right now. I said, why? He goes, Ric Flair is chewing out Carlito. Put it on now. Turn it on. I was like, fuck. They were just Rick. And I could tell that was just you could tell what it was Carlito got comfortable there. And they were basically saying, kid, you're not getting comfortable. That's how this is. You had a smooth deal. Dad was behind you, all this shit. And he goes, I think what happened, and the guy was saying to me, he said, I think they're probably pissed off at Carlos and Jovica because you wanted to leave because you were there for 5 years. So they're like, well, we'll give his kid a hard time, then. And I was like, that's what I kind of read off of it, after watching it.
You have to be in some kind of way involved, yeah.
Art.
You have to be in some kind of way, like, repercussions or something involved, with maybe that actions of like, hey, they were not able to put your title. And not only that, but appreciate you as a talent. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I think that. And so my unrecognized universal title was actually kind of a big, not saying an FU to him, but it kind of was. There was this promoter. I went to a couple of indie shows in Florida, and I was starting to kind of make a little bit of a name for myself, I guess, when I got back. That guy got a little burned out. And what happened was I come back, and there was this guy that was apparently wanting to start a company called Planet Championship Wrestling. He was willing to pay like big money for an indie show. That I kid you not, I got $1,000 for an indie show. This guy straight up said, no, I will pay you big money. He goes, who do you want to work with? I said, Apollo. And he goes, oh, from Puerto Rico? I said, yeah, he's a universal champ. Bring him up. Okay. Get in contact with him. He said, tell him I'm offering this much money. Okay. So I call Apollo. Me and Apollo are good buddies. So I give a call because Apollo hung out a lot. I actually got him back into WWC because he had been in IWA forever. And there was a lot of guys that I helped get over to WWC. Eric Alexander was another one of them.
Sure.
Because Carlos did not want to look at him. He did not want to take a chance on him. And Eric was calling me right and left. Hey, do you think, because I guess he had fallen favor with IWA or something, fall out of favor with him or something. And he was like, hey, man, can you help me out? Blah, 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 blah. Talk to Carlos. I said, yeah, sure. So I talked to Carlos, and then Carlos was like, hey, what do you think of this guy? I like him. He's a good dude. I got to know him before I came here. He's a good guy. I don't know if I trust that guy. This Carlos saying this to me. No, take a chance on him. He'll be all right. I said, okay. So that's when Eric came up.
Wow.
Later on. And then after that, Apollo was the same way. Apollo, me and him got to be friends.
Yeah.
And same thing with that. Carlos brought him up. And then he was like, well, what do you think of him? He's like, they were asking my opinion. What did I think of these guys? And I would tell them, they're cool with me. I like them. I think they're good guys and they'll do good business for you. So, because I look at how people are outside of the ring, how they are as people and how good of a person they are and stuff like that. Well, Apollo was a funny story, but me and him hung out a lot. We had a good time. We had some crazy times down there. We actually saved, this is another story, but we actually saved X-Pac from getting arrested in Puerto Rico.
Really? The amazing Sean Waltman. That's
for
wild.
another time.
That's crazy. That's a story for our second episode. Wow.
But Apollo came in and I was like, I called him and I said, hey man, this promoter's offering big money. He goes, what are we talking about? I said, $1,000. How much I'm getting paid? Really? Sign me up. I said, okay. So I tell the guy, he goes, yeah, sure. I want him. Tell him I'll pay him this much up front. Give me his address. I'll send him this much money up front and then go from there. And I got a couple other guys up there. I got Rico Suave up there, a couple other guys, and I got them paid really well. Eddie came up, Eddie Colon came up, a couple of guys. Because this promoter was just like giving, he was like just basically, whatever, man, and we had a good crowd that night. And anyways, Apollo, I said, you're the Universal Champion? He goes, yeah. I said, bring the belt. Sure. He gets there. It's funny. He gets there. He has no gear. He has just a pair of boots. That's all he had. His wife Havana cut up all his damn gear. So we get there and he goes, dude, you got some extra shit. I gave him a pair of my shit to wear because Havana cut up all of his shit. And he was like, so we had a good match that night. He put me over and it was kind of like unrecognized, but Wikipedia, I guess, freaking took up on the story, I guess, because I was just doing it just to be a dick.
No, yeah.
And then I get back and Apollo calls me. He said, dude, I got back and Carlos and Jovica gave me the biggest ass chewing about why did you put him over and blah, 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 blah. And just so fucking pissed. And he says, why'd you put that guy over? Why'd you do this? Blah, blah, blah. He was doing that as a fuck you to us type of attitude. Blah, 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 blah. Because he was mad at us. Carlos Jovica said, this is what Apollo told me. They told him.
Wow.
He said he was fucking mad at us and shit like that because we didn't want to. He's on a draw. And then Apollo said, no, he is. You guys wouldn't recognize his ass. So I thought I'd give the guy his just due. And I was just kind of that. That's probably why I've never come back to Puerto Rico because they probably still hold a grudge. So it's like
it's sad because they still hold a grudge, and not only that, but you go to IWA after WWC, or how that happened?
Actually, no, that's wrong. Actually, they said that one company said that or one of these websites said that I worked for IWA.
You never? I never
did.
Yeah. I was like, yeah.
I don't know. I saw that I won their title, and I go, when did I do that?
Yeah, it's just wild because, like I said, I never saw Brent in IWA in Channel 2. I was like, this is incredible, but still,
no.
Do you?
No, I never showed up there, but they apparently recognized me once as the junior heavyweight. I was like, I don't know.
I'll take it. You are like, I'll take it.
I said, I'll take it, but I never did anything for y'all. Yeah. So I was like, I know that they did. Savio tried a lot, though. Savio did. Savio, I got to know Savio pretty well. And I like Savio. Savio's a good dude. Never really worked with him, but he tried to get me to come to work for him a lot. He really did. He would drive up in his Hummer and see me walking on the side of the road. Brent Dail. I was like, hey, Savio, how you doing? Let's go have a beer. Get in the car. Let's go have a beer. Well, okay, why not? I was like, so I'd go and he'd talk, and we just kind of bullshit. And then he would tell me, hey, listen, Carlos and Jovica is not treating you right. You need to come over here with us, blah, 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 blah. I'll even talk to Jerry because he knew that I was there. He knew. He wasn't stupid. He says, I know that you're here because of Jerry sent you here, and we were interested in you before WWC.
True.
What if I talk to Jerry and we send you over here for a little while, change your, and, kind of, because at the time business was picking up for WWC. So I guess he was trying to nab me. And I was like, I'll talk to Jerry. I'll smooth it over. I was kind of loyal. I was like,
you were very loyal. You were very loyal.
I appreciate the offer. I appreciate the offer, Savio, but Carlos and Jovica, what are you willing to pay me? Because he says, I know you're not. I said, I am getting paid by them. You are? Yeah. They pay me my money every week. Now they deduct stuff for like, Dahlia and electric bill and stuff, because that stuff's not free. Like, this is what was funny about my check. I would get it, and it would say deduction.
Jesus Christ.
This is what you got left. I was like, okay, cool. So it would say rent money. It would say this much for rent, this much for electric, whatever, water, all that kind of shit. And I'd be like,
whatever.
It's their place. What the hell? Because it was their place.
Yeah.
So, and I knew it wasn't going to be free, because all the other guys that were staying places, they had to fit their own bill wherever they went. So Tim Arson was staying in a different place.
God rest his soul, man. Tim Arson, man.
Tim was a man. Tim was a good dude. Loved that guy. He was a great guy.
Very sad to see him go so young. Yeah.
We actually butted heads when he first got there. We butted heads at first. But then we got to be good friends, and a lot of guys I was like that with. It was kind of like a testing ground. Like Sandman was like that with me. A couple of guys, they just kind of test me to see if I was tough or whatever. Just talking a lot of shit, and then we'd get drunk and we'd act stupid, and the next thing I know, it'd end up both of us getting each other's faces. And I was like, man, I ain't backing down to your ass. What the hell you gonna? I said, brother, you might be some crazy hardcore motherfucker, but I'll whoop your fucking ass. And they're like, you fucking green bastard. You think? I said, green bastard my ass. When you get your ass in the ring, you're gonna see how fucking good I am. And they're like, dude, you're a shit talker. I said, well, you're talking shit too, so I'm just gonna back it up. Problem with me and you is I back it up. That's the difference. And then they would like, hey man, blah, blah, blah. And then Sabu would jump in it. Dude, I had some of those ECW guys down there. Dustin, oh God, you just don't know. Some of those stories, man, I saved a lot of guys' asses. I remember getting there, and I would always get called, and I would say, I heard you're the guy we need to talk to. I was like the damn gringo tour guide when we got there, It was like, so it was like, every guy that was getting cut by WWE came in, and they would ride with me, or whoever would ride with me. Anybody. Dustin Rhodes would ride with me. Freaking X-Pac would. Freaking, all these guys would. And I just shut up, and they would talk, telling me all kinds of shit and da-da-da. I remember Orlando Jordan came in, Matt Morgan came in, James Storm came in. God, Sabu, friggin' Sandman. God, so many people.
It's crazy because it's just crazy where all these guys end up. Matt Morgan is just the mayor of Longwood, Florida these days.
Exactly.
I mean, he's just crazy.
We connected back on Facebook. It was kind of funny. He was doing some kind of a podcast or something.
Sure.
And a kid that I used to coach that wants to get into the business really bad. And I told him I'd train him or what. He was actually going to go to Tom Pritchard's school up in Tennessee, I guess.
Yeah.
And anyways, long story short, he texts me on Facebook and says, please watch this. So I put it up at this mark. So apparently Matt Morgan, I watch it, and it's Matt Morgan, and he's doing a podcast with two other guys. And he goes, watch it at this minute time. So I get to that minute time. And he said, we have a kid on here, Dorian, good friend of the show, da-da-da-da-da, and whatever. He says, Matt Morgan, he's got a question for you. Do you know his coach, Brent Dail? And he goes, oh, my God, I haven't heard that name in years. Brent, oh, my God, Brent fucking Dail. Holy shit. He's like, and he just starts, man, this motherfucker, we drove up and down the road in Puerto Rico, blah, 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 blah. Great guy, fucking awesome guy. Protect my ass down there. And I was like, oh, cool. And then he's like, yeah, he just wanted to know because he was his coach. He's like, okay. But there was a funny story about Matt Morgan. One time Matt was a big dude.
He's a huge dude. Yeah.
Huge. Well, there's a funny story one time we're in that is me, him, and Tim Arson riding to a show, and Matt's just talking mad shit in the car. Mad shit, just about how fucking great he is. And I was like, guys, a lot of guys are marks for themselves.
Yeah, sure.
So he's just talking mad shit and just talking about how I'm a little motherfucker and this, that, and the other, and that I couldn't do nothing to him and all this other kind of shit. And I said, you played basketball, right? He goes, yeah. I said, okay, you're a basketball player. I'm a wrestler, a real wrestler. We'll see. And he's trying to pull my punk card in the car. I was like, whatever. So we get out to get gas, right? And I'm giving out some money. Matt's giving up some money. Tim goes inside to pay. Matt, we get out of the car to kind of stretch our legs. Matt grabs me on the concrete.
Really?
Just grabs me.
Like in a gas station in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, just grabs me.
You guys are crazy.
He goes, come on. He goes, come on, man. Let's see what you got. And I go, you really want to do this? Come on, man. I want to see how tough you are. And I go, all right. So I picked him up and I double-legged his big ass. Picked him up all the way up there and slammed him on the concrete. He is literally laying on the concrete like, ah! And fucking Tim walks out and goes, what the fuck did I miss? Matt's laying on his back on the concrete ground next to one of the gas pumps.
You guys are
and I
nuts.
go, and I said, basketball player, wrestler. Get it. Get it, got it, good.
That is incredible.
After that, cool as hell. Never had an issue. Because, like I said, we had guys that would come in and they were so used to being a star wherever they were, and they all wanted to be pampered and this, that, and the other, and just treated like their shit didn't stink and whatever. And I would be like, dude, brother, we're back in reality now.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's see what you got, brother. And they would be like, they'd come to the realization real freaking quick. They get humbled really fast. I mean, I remember one time, I think that's probably one of the reasons I never went to TNA, because I actually almost kicked James Storm out of my car one time.
No way. That's wild. That's crazy.
No, we were in a van, right? And it was me.
This is a wild interview, guys.
Matt Morgan, James Storm, Jeremy Borash, and I want to say Eric Young.
You had Jeremy that was part of creative. You had so much people. That's crazy.
Yeah, we were sitting in there and we're going through the tolls, right? And everybody's divvying up money. James starts acting like he's asleep. And I'm like, and then we get past the tolls, he wakes up all of a sudden. When we get to every toll, he starts acting like he's asleep, right? And I caught on to what he was doing. I pulled off on the side of the road and I go, hey, he goes, what? Are you not putting in on the bill here? I mean, this ain't free. Oh man, I'm blah, blah, blah. I said, you ain't, okay. You're supposed to drive me to the town. I said, motherfucker, I'm over more than you are here by far. I'm driving you because Carlos wants me to. He bought the rent-a-car, but your ass is going to pay for gas and goddamn tolls.
Correct.
And he says, really? I said, how about this? And I opened up the automatic doors. I said, either that or get your ass out of this fucking van and start walking to Ponce. And he goes, you're not kidding, are you? I said, hell no, I'm not. And I was his tag team partner a couple of times. And I said, no, I'm not. You're going to play that? I don't play that shit here, man. I said, Ricky never played that shit with me. No other veteran I worked with ever played that shit. So I ain't playing that shit. I was like, you don't want to divvy up? Dude, you make a shit ton more money than I do.
Oh, yeah. He was making bank.
Yeah.
He was making
You're
bank.
making good money in TNA, so don't give me that bullshit. So he was like, all right, man. I'm cool. And then later on, TNA. They brought me by, but I think I had some heat there. So it was what it was, man. I mean, you had
a wonderful career. You had a wonderful career, Brent. Even though
it was a lot of fun.
It was fun, but you had a wonderful career. You made a big statement in the industry of wrestling in Puerto Rico. Not only that, but now with the internet, I have seen videos of yours and the hundreds of thousands and thousands of people watching them, that is just wild, because you now, this is second life. You have seen it, you were interviewed by the amazing website, the biggest website, in the world of wrestling, like in Spanish, like Lucha Libre Online. And, just to get that notoriety, I got emails from people. It's like, we want to hear about Brent. Where he's Brent, that stuff. And he said, well, let me see if I can find him, because the whole thing is that now you're a professional, residing in Florida, but just you are a wrestler at heart. You did it for your entire life, and now you're a professional and you have transitioned to, these other things. Plus you have your projects and everything, but you made a mark. You made a mark in the industry, and it's super cool because people, they're still like talk about those amazing times that you were in Puerto Rico, and you had tremendous matches, And just closing this amazing interview, we've been more than an hour and a half talking, and it's been amazing to have this dialogue with the amazing Brent Dail. Brent,
thank you.
No, it's been wild. It's just impressive, and I'm gonna have you back, because people are gonna start emailing us when this airs, and they're gonna say, we want to have the guy back, like, because your stories.
I have so many stories. I think I'm one of the only guys in the history of pro wrestling that won Wrestler's Court. So,
wow, that's wild. And you won Wrestler's Court. That's a story for another time, of course. What do you miss about the wrestling business, and what you can say to all the fans that they still respect you and they appreciate what you have done?
I think one of the things that I realized, because I got a lot of like guys like Angel Fashion.
Oh my God, yes, Angel Fashion. That he's in the AEW Pro Wrestling 2.0, and we had him in the podcast.
A lot of guys, Samuel Adams, a couple other guys, BJ, a bunch of guys that text. I mean, they were on Facebook one day, and they all started like messaging me one time, and they were all talking about, because a lot of them I started noticing were like taking my mannerisms that I used to do, like, just certain things I would do and stuff. And I go, hey man, that looks familiar. And I just say, just fucking with them, and they go, dude, you don't understand how much you influenced me.
Oh yeah.
I said, brother, Sammy, I was like, dude, I used to run around the crowd because I saw you used to do it. I was like, brother, you don't understand how much you influence. And then I said that to, I think Wilfredo Sanchez was talking to me one time. He goes, brother, you don't realize the impact you left on this island. You really did. Like, as far as like the future generations to come of the guys in the business. He said, you taught a lot of guys, because, okay, there was a thing. Carlos used to literally send me out to Isaac Lasario and different schools around the island. He would send me there scouting talent. And I don't speak English very well. I don't speak Spanish very well. They would bring me in to scout guys. So like all the Mucha Lucha kids, like BJ, Ricochet, I think the other Angel Diaz, a couple other guys, they would have me go there and work with these guys. And I would actually have to teach them how to work a little bit, because they all knew how to flip, flop, fly and do all kinds of crazy shit. They're like the Hardy Boys. They could do all kinds of crazy shit. But as far as like doing the basics, so he would go in there and I'd work with these guys just to see how their basics were. And Carlos would be like, okay, well, how's their basics? How's their selling skills? And I work with the guy, and they go, Sack would talk with them and be like, all right, Brent's going to get in here and work with you. And he's going to see how good you are. This is like a chance for you maybe to get a job with WWC. And these guys, these kids were all for it. So I would sit there and I'd work with a lot of these guys, and a lot of the NWS guys, like Noriega, guys like that. I'd work with a lot of these guys, like Ash, all these guys. And they would I would go to these schools and work with these guys, and they were looking for more talent. So it was like, okay, me and Eddie would go, or Eddie would kind of sit in the background, and then I would work with the guy or something like that, or whatever, me or Orlando would go. Even though I was a heel and they were a baby face, they didn't give a shit. They were like, I said, I thought you were supposed to be fuck it. He says, yeah, we'll do this. You get in, then I'll come in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They said, you get out of the car first, and then I'll get out, or whatever, some stupid shit. But they were like, I would go with them, even me being a heel, and them because we would be like a representative of the office. So we would go in there and we'd work with these guys. And then Eddie would kind of watch them and say, all right, Brent, get in there and work with some of these guys. Okay, well, what do you think? Not bad. a little green, but he'd probably do a little bit better. I think he'll do pretty well. And then later on, I see that some of these guys are doing outstanding, just outstanding. And I'm like, and that was one of the things that kind of the coach in me kind of was like, hey, all right, well, kind of made a little impact here, some impact here and there. And that was I think it's just a thing of being remembered and just knowing
you are very well remembered. That's what I got to tell you.
Just a positive impact in people's lives. I mean, I might have been a heel, but I mean, at the same time, one guy told me, he said, I noticed that you were the only guy as a heel or a babyface that was out there signing autographs for freaking kids.
Yes.
And you would sign autographs and do whatever. And he said other guys would act like they're too good to sign autographs. And you would literally sign autographs for little tiny kids to whatever. And you're a damn heel. And I said, well, I feel like that if people come to pay their money, if they're coming to pay their hard-earned dollar, what am I going to, if they want to shake my hand or take a picture with me or get an autograph, that's the least I can do.
Sure.
I mean, that's just kind of how I felt about it. It's like, I just feel like, well, and I never say never. You never know what's going on. I have talked to Eddie in Orlando. I don't know necessarily what they're doing. They kind of gave me a little bit of a hint about some stuff. It's been a little while since I talked to him. But I think Carly and I think, and I've talked to Carlito a little bit. I think that they're interested in maybe down the road bringing me back. I don't know necessarily about Jovica and their dad, but I think that I've had been friends with them for so long that it's kind of like, listen, we get some shit going. Maybe you want to come down for a little while or something like that, or come in and out. I said, yeah, sure. Why don't we talk? But this was a couple of months ago. I had some stuff going on personally, but I was going through a divorce and stuff like that. So it was, I said, well, let me get all that stuff behind me and then we'll go from there, and now that stuff's behind me. So now I'm kind of like, I'm open.
I'm very glad that you're doing well. Very glad that, you are in a better place, and I'm extremely appreciative and respectful of what you have contributed, Brent. You are an asset to the business. You still can contribute in many ways. I wish that the Performance Center in WWE had an instructor or someone that respects so much the business as you do, because I think that the product will be very different, and maybe what the guys will do in the business or inside the ring will be very business. I'm not discounting, obviously, the amazing, great trainers that they have there, but the business needs a Brent Dail in some capacity at some point, grooming that generation that you impacted, and be able to just give them that platform to respect what we love, that is wrestling and this industry. Right. I really got to have you for a second, obviously, episode, and we have to schedule that, for the next maybe 2 or 3 months, because you're busy and you have a lot of things going. But what message you would like to give to all the fans and people the thousands that are listening, and what message you would like to give? The microphone is yours, and it's all yours.
Well, I really want to say to all the fans that supported me in my career that I tried to give you your money's worth. I always tried to, they say putting a smile on your face, whether you like me or you didn't like me. My whole thing was come out and check it out. Come out and check it out. You want to throw something at me? Go ahead. You want to do this? You want to like me? Go ahead. It was just kind of the whole thing of, I want you to feel like you're appreciated. You got your money's worth. You got entertained. That's what you're about. Because if not, then I don't exist. The guys in this business, we don't exist without those people, the fans. We don't. We have it. We got nothing. You got nothing. So that's really the biggest thing, was just, like I said, making a positive impact on people's lives, and maybe felt like, that I, there was a, what's it called? An outlet for maybe their everyday life, and try to make some, like I said, some kind of a positive impact on them, to where, they got their money's worth and they wanted to continue to come back because of that. So, that's really my biggest thing on that. And, I never say never, because it seems like there's some kind of a resurgence that's been happening in this past year. I've been getting I've been interviewed by you. I've been interviewed by Lucha Libre Online. I've been interviewed by PRWA. And there's some other people that have asked me, and I'm sitting there going, okay, well, I didn't realize I had My thing is, Luis, is the whole thing of not knowing that I had the impact that I had. I didn't realize what I did, but I guess the amount of time and the short amount of time that I was 5 years straight being there and did what I did, I feel like that maybe I crammed a lot of stuff in a short amount of time because
you did history. You wrote history. You are part of our history, and Brent Dail is always going to be part of the history of wrestling in Puerto Rico. And it's awesome. It's really awesome what you have done. And I got to give you so much respect because it takes a real wrestler and such a passionate individual and professional like yourself. And you are very passionate about everything you do, you say, and, your life and now your professional, career, in other areas. But I truly respect you, and everything that you have done for the business is truly remarkable. And I wish that we keep, and I'm going to be very, very honest with you. I'm going to make sure to keep that alive, and we can talk and keep talking to other wrestlers and have you back. But, what you have done is definitely impactful, and you did something extremely remarkable in the wrestling business in Puerto Rico.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that very much.
Trust me.
I really do.
It's a lot of great things that you have contributed, and where people they can find you on social media so they can follow you, Brent, and just
you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. I do have a Snapchat, I believe. I barely use it, but I'm on it.
I don't use that either.
Yeah, I'm on it, but it's just normally Brent Dail, and it's pretty simple. I have a Facebook page, the Natural Born Fighter, this fan page. I have a Twitter account that's like Brent Dail at FWF or something. And then I have the other company that I've been still trying to get off the ground, but it's kind of a little bit like, I would say, like Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, I guess. It's Federation of World Fighters. I did a couple of shows, but the thing is it takes money to do what you got to do. And if you don't have the money to get it going, you can only do so much. So it's like still working on that, but it's that's still a project. I still keep it on the back burner because I keep it alive because you never know where it's going to happen down the road. And it's just one of those things that are just making it's like a cross between pro wrestling and MMA. It's called Federation of World Fighters. I actually have federationofworldfighters.com. If you want to check that out, it's on the internet, it's on the website. I think a lot of it too is I started to feel like that that the business had passed me by. But it's kind of like the mafia. It's kind of like the whole thing that in The Godfather 3. Al Pacino said, "Once I feel like I'm about to leave, they bring me back." It's like that's pretty much how it's been.
Yeah.
Like right when I feel like it's all dead, they bring me back in.
Sure.
It's like because I just feel like I have a lot to tell. I have a lot of stories. I met a lot of great people. Some interesting story. I saved a lot of people's asses. Basically, I remember a thing with X-Pac. He remembers me to this day. He would go, "Dude, this guy saved my ass." And I remember we were a couple of indie shows, and he's like, "Dude, come sit down. Let's talk." And everybody would be like, "Dude, this guy saved my ass." He saved everybody. I'll tell you that for another time. But
no, yeah,
he got in a lot of trouble down there at one time.
Oh no,
just,
yeah.
We had some guys that, they were, wow. I'd never seen some people that were just some of the personalities I've seen in my entire life. Just
wrestling
I felt
is
like
special.
I was pretty.
Wrestling is special.
That?
Wrestling is very special.
You think? Oh yeah, that's an understatement by far. So, but no, everything's good, and I just the only thing I could say that I don't know how Puerto Rico World Wrestling Council is and all that is now. But at the time that I was there, Dutch Mantel said that we were kind of a little bit under the radar because of indies and stuff like that. Like I would say as far as promotional and people getting the word out more around the country. Because like the Wrestling Observer and people like that, they follow Mexico, they follow Japan, and they follow the United States.
Yep.
Puerto Rico is kind of like right under the radar. I always feel like, but we're right up there with all of them. And we always have been.
Correct.
World Wrestling Council, IWA, whatever. We're right there and we've had some of the best talent there. But I think that the thing that I wish that they would do more of, and I think that Carly, Eddie, and Orlando probably going to bring more of it to light, is making it more of a worldwide entity to where it's respected. It is what it is. But yeah, we are on the level of the New Japan Pro Wrestlings. We are on the level of CMLL, Arena Mexico, AAA, all them type of people. We're not any different from any of them. We were the territory that that Vince McMahon was not able to kill.
Correct.
So in the United States that he was not able to kill. So it's one of those things that I think it's been punished for that. And the other thing too is probably, the thing with the Bruiser Brody incident didn't help anything either, but it's one of those places that I remember even the Undertaker telling me when he helped me out at one point in the tryout, but he told me, he said, dude, I found out you spent 5 years in Puerto Rico. I say, Dad, he goes, nobody spends that much time out.
Oh, yes. I agree. Carl Calloway, the amazing Mark Calloway, the amazing Undertaker, the legend, the dead man alive, He said those words and he knows a lot about the business. That has seen it a lot.
He told me straight up, he goes, brother, I respect you because nobody spends that much time down there. He goes, brother, Kane only stayed there for about a year. If that, 6 months to a year. You were there 5 years, man. That's a long time.
That's a long time for an import like yourself. So, it's awesome. Yeah. I got to have you back, Brent. We got to have you back at some point. We'll schedule that for all the thousands that they're listening, in the United States, Central, South America, Europe. But, Brent, this is your house anytime. We'll support all your projects, man. We appreciate and respect you tremendously for all the contributions, Enjoy down there the weather in Tampa, Florida. I'm in Pennsylvania, like an hour and a half from New York City, man, and the winters over here, they're brutal. So you are spoiled like you are in Puerto Rico, like you're in Puerto Rico.
I have that island lifestyle year round practically, except in the winter. It does get a little bit cold, but it ain't. I've been in the Midwest and I've been up north, and
that's not Europe. That's not Brent Dail.
Y'all can have it. I'm cool. No. Yeah, I'll stay in Florida. I'm cool.
No, for sure. For sure. Like, again, like I said, Brent, this is your house. Hope to have you back again very soon. All people will be very excited when this airs. And everyone, please follow Brent Dail in all social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook. It's just super wonderful to see such a great guy, Señor Estados Unidos, the amazing Brent Dail, the guy that really put, the junior heavyweight division in WWC, in the map, and, still getting hundreds of thousands of plays every single month from his matches. Brent, this is your house anytime. Thank you so much. My respects, and hope to have you back soon.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. God bless you.
God bless you as well, too. And everyone, please follow us on social media, and see you guys next time in Dialogo with Luis Otero.